The Polynesian island nation of Tuvalu is one of the smallest and most remote countries in the world. It has a total land area of 26 square kilometers and lies in the middle of the South Pacific, just north of Fiji and south of Kiribati. The 4 reef islands and 5 true atolls that make up Tuvalu only just break the surface of the surrounding Pacific Ocean and have an average height of 1 meter above sea level. For centuries, Tuvalu's people have sustained themselves on the limited resources provided by these atolls. Fishing and the cultivation of taro in shallow pits was their main source of food. Freshwater, however, has always been scarce. Some islands have small freshwater lenses that capture rainwater, but others, like the main atoll of Funafuti, are too porous for a proper freshwater lens to develop. Even short periods of drought can quickly lead to localized or national water crisis.
There are a few water issues that Tuvalu is facing, and to name some of them, one is water shortage, and as you are well aware, we have just declared the state of emergency on 2 islands here in Tuvalu, that's Nuku'alofa and Funafuti, and also there are some other islands who are now starting to face water shortage. The other issue is the intrusion of seawater from our underground water basins. That has also created problems for our root crops, and also it has created problems to our soils. And the other issue that I would like to mention is the water pollution. That is also an issue that we are starting to experience as our the structure of the island, especially Funafuti, or the formation of the island. The island tend to slope towards the lagoon, so all the wastewater and the polluted water tend to flow to the lagoon.
We've always had a water problem, I think, from first time people came and settled on these islands. That's why they started building these pulaka pits you see in the back. Our forefathers actually dug down, just trying to look for water. So they had to dig right down to the waterlands and then put lots of compost and then cultivated food crops there.
During droughts, these already pressing problems become amplified. People do all they can to collect what little water there is. Dry periods are also costly for Tuvalu's economy, as the government has to spend money running desalination plants.
The demand is getting higher. More people are coming to especially to the urban area, to the capital. And what we are having now is the 50 cubic meter desalination plant, which is about 50,000 liters a day. And that is not enough for to supply the demand for the public.
From our data, the desalination, the main component is electricity. To run the electricity alone range from 2,500 to 4,000 something per month. So that's costly, and plus the labor for those who man the around 100 per day. So the cost is around 5,000 per month, for, say a bold figure around there.
Costs us around 30 to 40,000 a year. It's just only for electricity bills, excluding the parts of the desalination plants. We have funds allocated for the parts, which come up to $15,000 a year. At the end, due to last 3-4 years, we always run out of budget for the spare parts. As we are running the desalination plant 24 hours every day, see? The longer the drought, the longer the desalination is going to operate, and it's going to cost the Tuvalu government a lot.
A lack of water and poor soil also raises questions about food security in Tuvalu, which relies heavily on imported fresh vegetables and food. In order to increase food production, different aid organizations are working to make agriculture more viable in Tuvalu.
Now we have Taiwan. They're into a more bigger production. They have this demonstration farm trying to promote commercial farming, but you can see the difficulty they're still facing with water. They have so many water systems there, water tanks, to catch as much water. And yet in a long drought, like for 3 weeks, that whole farm will just start, collapsing. With our food crops as well, the vegetable production is still low. We don't produce enough this time. I think if the household production becomes higher in future, because as we promote the home gardening, there's only about 30% getting involved in home gardening. I'm talking about Funafuti, because we kind of have records through but on the outer islands it will be a bit more or less. So imagine if, say, 70 to 80% of all households in Tuvalu get engaged in home gardening throughout the year, then I think we will be better off in accessing vegetables.
Population growth and development is putting increased pressure on already fragile water resources. What little groundwater there is being contaminated by wastewater from septic tanks and piggeries. This contamination increases the threat from waterborne diseases.
The main source of water contaminations are the waste the influence that leaking out of the septic systems, and as well the piggeries also contribute to that issue.
While flush toilets and septic systems are seen as a modern convenience, it is a way of disposing of sewage that is ill-suited to Tuvalu's geography and is contributing to health and environmental problems. Effluent from septic tanks leak into the porous limestone and coral ground, contaminating any existing groundwater. The sewage eventually ends up in the surrounding lagoons and ocean. During the dry months between April and late October, there is a spike in diseases associated with dirty water, water contaminated by human waste and poor sanitation.
We are so remote out in the Pacific, with all the other Pacific Island countries. We usually see problems with diarrheal diseases like typhoid, dysentery, and other waterborne diseases, especially when there's shortage of water within 2 weeks period. And the problem is people tend to not to really wash their hands because of lack of water in the household, and sometimes people tend to store water and then forget to boil water at the same time, so the water will be contaminated, and that leads to most of the waterborne or diarrheal diseases that we usually encounter during those periods.
Runoff from septic tanks and piggery waste into the lagoon is also impacting the ability of many on Funafuti to catch fish. Fishermen now spend more money and fuel and travel further away to find fish.
Before, it's very clear, but today it is hardly. You can see mud everywhere, and even people are using the sea for toilet. All that's been polluted, and even the septic tank pour their pollution down to the sand, soil, and as a result, all washed down to the sea. Yes, before we live on fish. Today, it's a big change. We depend on what has been bring from overseas. Because of the reduce of fish, we cannot manage to feed all the mouth in Tuvalu.
I think one of the main cause of coral dying along this area is mainly due to heavy human activities that are applying to the reef, particularly most of the sediments from the mainland. More nutrients are deposited into the reef, and more algae are growing, and less live corals are found on all these places where people used to go and collect all their fishes.
Septic tanks are also only a short-term solution to sewage disposal in Tuvalu. Tuvalu has no sewage treatment plant. This means that when septic tanks eventually fill up, there is no proper way to dispose of the sewage inside them.
Digging up your septic tank is smelly, people working, digging up. And even there's another issue with here in Tuvalu. There's no system where to bailing out of the septic tank when it's full. People from the department just dig the whole thing and put it beside and dig a hole next to the septic tank, fill it up. So there's still, if using the septic system, there is still a problem with smell and environmental problems.
At the end of the day, the sewage in septic tanks enters and pollutes the environment. The amount of water used to flush toilets is also of concern.
Say for a toilet facility, a toilet usage per day per person, we usually use around 15 to 25 liters per usage. So using composting toilet, we saves a lot of water from our toilets. We always, in our campaign, in our awareness programs, we always say to the people, say that normally we use 30% of our stores for our toilet facilities alone. So if we can use composting toilet, we save that 30%.
The water situation in Tuvalu highlights the complex interconnectedness of water and sanitation issues to economic development, health, food security and continual viability of small atoll nations. The need to conserve water while at the same time preventing the continued pollution of groundwater and the surrounding marine environment is a high priority for the Tuvaluan government. The Global Environment Facility is currently running an integrated water resources management pilot project in Tuvalu that aims to show how composting toilets can both conserve water and prevent septic pollution. It has the add-on benefit of producing compost that can enrich the poor atoll soils and increase household food production.
PWD's role is mainly to facilitate the implementation of the IWRM project in terms of supporting and assisting the technical aspect of the project. We can assist them from the planning, monitoring and execution of the project.
We are trying to actually promote the using of compost toilet as a dry eco sanitation in Tuvalu. The purpose of because using of composting toilet was actually going to save water and as well reduce the impact of wastewater in our environment. And that's why we actually looking at compost toilet as our preferred sanitation, dry eco sanitation in Tuvalu.
So why are composting toilets better than the current septic systems?
The compost toilet doesn't use water, so actually save water in that way. And even doing composting is like saving the environment as well. Looking at the problems of the environment, saving those waste water going to the environment. And we think that the compost toilet work both ways, solving the water shortage problems and also looking at the waste problem in Tuvalu.
Te kesenga te toilet ni, pera amna komandar dong da amuan. Te mo taula, o lasi te vai toe. Mai lunga te kaunga te toilet da amuan, pera kaunga vai. E lasi te onge vai e boku ndo kainga. Dena voe. Tena mo te lasi te vai da whakaonga i taimua. Mai lawe a maafona toki paketi. Te taimi lasi mwhai no pa ono paketi te aso. Ati no te paketi rai ono lita. Ati on se ruas fulu lita e mwhai o whano te aso. Ai nei bea mo se lasi te vai e whakaonga.
The government is supportive of that, given the very limited supply of water, and that's why we are very supportive of that initiative for people to have access to compost toilet, and especially on the outer islands, and not only the outer islands and the capital, where they can afford to have this compost toilet, so we can reduce the use of water and the adverse impact of water to our ground, to the water table.
This is a recommendable toilet to be used for Tuvalu, especially that we don't have these rivers or where we can use other means of water. We're just relying on rain, which right now it's been a problem that the rain can't come to the island. I would say that it's crucial for Tuvalu to have all this kind of, to have this kind of toilet. It will help us a lot.
In new technology, there is always a lot of questions. When it comes to new toilet technology, one of the questions is, does it smell?
So that's why the whole process is waterless. So when the people looks after the thing, there's a limited smell or odor from the system. And even that, the whole system, there's a vent pipe. So it's like a normal toilet. There's a vent pipe that the smell goes out.
Era te kilo la dog de fighting of the toilet. I don't know them say tongue. Kati pa fatakali ali na do. Yo me say don't know do kaunga. Se manong ba time da mai tu de galu masina. Mo te iba masina. Vai dia sunga da ne mau ate toilet mo bisi. Dinga da ne tali na ugiro tu de fatong.
Compost that comes out of compost toilets is safe to handle and can be used to enrich soil for gardens, saving money that would otherwise be spent on vegetables from shops and increasing food security.
The compost you can use for gardening, tomatoes, cucumbers, you can name it. But the liquid from the urine you can use it for bananas and those other trees like breadfruits, and so it is viable in Tuvalu.
Whakawana ki whatonga, toki nau ki laga wai fuelung, a moresi. Ati mo pula laga ulu, pua fiti.
Kokoro te pela tuku mapuku, kokoro te tau e te aunga. Tewe, tēnei te pela. E mo wai so ni mo vai pera ma de whakati titi mo vai kokoro te le ki te me te kai te vai ngā mea te na.
Benefits of composting toilets are numerous. They help conserve water. People can use the water saved for other means and have more water in times of drought.
With climate change and the variability in drought season and rainy season, people will suffer a lot from shortage of water. So this is a way to solve the solution, as a solution to the problem in Tuvalu with waste water supply.
Because I've been involved in the issue of climate change, and I've been asking the people to use all means of reserving our resources, as well as saving our water, reserving our water resources. I think the impact of being aware of the impacts of using flushing toilets to our environment is one of the things that really makes me feel that we need to do away with flushing toilets in order to have a healthy environment. And that's why I prefer using compost toilets on flushing toilets.
Unlike septic tanks, there is no leaking or contamination of groundwater in the lagoons, improving the health of people and stopping coral from dying due to pollution. The compost.
I think those new compost toilets it's something that we may have. It's a very important option because it conserves water, and at the same time you have good compost coming out of this toilet system. Right? They go straight into the garden. So you have double, dual purpose there. So you're conserving water, and at the same time it is already available, readily available compost to the home, and it helps the food production at the household level. So I would love to see this thing promoted maybe in the next 10-15 years. Then there's a shift, say 30-40% of people, especially on the capital island, shifting into that type of household level gardening using compost toilets, and at the same time conserving water. But it would also be important to the outer islands because the villages, the settlements on the outer islands are expanding as well, and they're using more water.
Benefits of Tuvalu's compost toilets have been noticed by other Pacific Island countries. Tonga has already constructed 2 demonstration models based on the Tuvalu design. The Republic of the Marshall Islands and Nauru has also asked for Tuvalu's assistance in constructing these toilets.
We would like to see that it's been replicated to all the islands in Tuvalu, and we are happy to say that in the meantime we've received a request from some of the islands, and with our communication strategy in place, we would like to go further to all the islands and raise awareness on the importance of water conservation through the use of Falevatia, and I believe with our awareness raising we'll be able to attract more people, and with the idea that we will have composting toilets throughout Tuvalu in the future.
With the other nations of Pacific Islands, they've been inviting me to replicate what we have developed here in Tuvalu and promoted, such as Tonga and Marshall Islands, Nauru and Kiribati.
Is leading the way in the Pacific with this technology as a solution to water scarcity and septic pollution. Falevatia, better for you, me, and our future.